Let's review our Sunday school lesson for today. We're in the winter quarter for December, January, and February 2024, entitled Faith That Pleases God. This quarter, we're looking at the description of faith and looking at faith in action. We will see why it's important to have faith that pleases God in our daily lives. Our unit for this month, unit number 2 for January 2024, is entitled Learning About Faith. Looking at 4 lessons from Hebrews, Proverbs, 2 Chronicles, and Romans that give us the detailed description of faith, why it's important to live by faith, the trustworthiness of faith, and how we can depend on God to live by faith, its encouragement, as well as its transformative power, even to transform our minds. Our lesson for today, lesson number 8 for January 21st, 2024, entitled Overcoming Fear. Printed passage is 2 Chronicles 20:13 through 20. One of the aspects as we learn how to trust God and put our faith in Him is to learn how to do so over fear. Here in 2 Chronicles is a very familiar story of King Jehoshaphat. And in the face of fear, he shows us what it means to trust in God. Now, this is a real aspect of our Christian walk because there's a lot of things that fear us, from the smallest thing going wrong all the way up to one of the greatest fears that man has, which is death. All of those things in that wide spectrum that we have, we face fear. And we as Christians have got to learn, despite fear, we must have faith. It's like we said during the pandemic, faith over fear. Amen. Trusting God, believing in God, depending on God, even despite what we may be afraid of. So look here, King Jehoshaphat. In our abilities and our natural mind, we may not be able to wrap our minds around it. It may cause fear, but we got to trust God because King Jehoshaphat shows us that. Verse number 16, he's told to go down against his enemies, that they're going to come up by the cliff, and they're going to be down by the brook. And as God gives him the layout of the enemy's terrain and what way they're going to be traveling, as the Lord leads King Jehoshaphat to go down, as soon as he get down, he says, but you will not fight. I want you to get set and stand still. Now, if our military did that today, the commander-in-chief would have a lot of questions to answer, and it could cause a lot of fatalities. Naturally. But spiritually, following God, King Jehoshaphat was told to go down, stand still, not to fight, simply because the battle is not yours, but it's the Lord's. And King Jehoshaphat was told, you ain't got to worry about fighting because God will fight this battle for you. Spiritually, amen. Spiritually, there's a lesson in this for us today. Amen. Because all the things that come up that give us fear, that make us afraid, listen, God simply says, don't be afraid. Your enemy, and this may be unconventional, your enemy may be plotting against you, but it's all right. It's not your battle. It's my battle to fight. God simply says, trust me. You get in position, I'll do the rest. And that's what faith does. Faith puts us in a position to receive from God that all we have to do is trust him by faith to be in that position. He'll do the rest. He'll open up the doors. He'll close the doors. He'll make the pathways. He'll close off the pathway. He'll order the steps. He'll jumble up whoever steps he needs to. He'll do what he promised to do. We just have to, by faith, trust him. Now, as we look at the different fears in our life, sometimes you got to do it through fear. Our first lesson for this month talked about Noah, who through fear kept on building. And that's what we got to do. Keep on building your faith habitation. And that faith in God, he'll do what he promised to do. Have faith. Amen. Even though you're afraid, have faith. And let that faith cause you to follow God, even despite of any of your fears. Amen. I ought to have some witnesses that can say, I've had to do that. Amen. I've had to follow God despite fears, but my faith in him was never put to shame. God will be right there with you. Amen. He will guide you and lead you. Amen. Even as you put your faith in him over all of your fears. May the Lord help us to walk into the truth of this lesson today in our daily lives. Amen.